we give honor, we salute those who have served and paid the price for us to have the freedom that we have. We're so honored today. God has sent us a very, very special person to just use as a mouthpiece on today. And we are so thankful, so grateful for those who have came to support him. We're so glad you're here to support him as well. This person that is coming before you, I see him as a brother in Christ. And the thing about me, if you spend enough time with me, you'll know that I'm not the kind of person that gets impressed by just stuff. But, stuff. A lot of times people just show you stuff. And what does leave an impression on me is the heart of a man and the heart of a woman. And this person that is coming to share with us today has just a wonderful heart. He doesn't have to, tell you about it. You just know it in the life that he's lived out and the way that he serves. And so he said that he's honored. I'm actually honored that God has allowed us to use this as a platform for God to just minister through him. And you may have seen, for those who have looked at the social media, this is a good friend of ours from a long ways from here, way out in the county, in the country. But you know what? I'm so blessed that God has used this man and has taken him across the world and brought him back home safely. And I know it's because God has a plan for your life, man. And you've seen some of it, and what's to come is you can't even imagine. But I'm so glad that Justin Howells, he's gonna share a word with us today. He is a veteran himself in the United States Marine Corps. He also has served at the Sheriff's Office in Stafford County, and he has served in the city of Manassas Park as a police officer. And he has been a blessing to the Mighty Oaks Warrior programs. He has been a blessing there, serving as a DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia speaker for the Mighty Oaks Warriors program. So I'm just glad what God is doing in his life. I'm so glad for those of you who came to support. That means so much. That means so much, and we're so glad for Life Ticket Church. So at this time, I want you to just put your hands together and give God some praise as Justin comes forward.
Good now? Oh, perfect. All right, I just want to thank everybody for just coming out. Obviously, thank you, Pastor Baker, for just allowing me, just trusting me to speak to church. I know how hard it is now just to get somebody to come into church and give a word that comes from God. And so for me to come here and then to ask me to be, I'm not a preacher, trust me, I believe every preacher can sing and I can't sing, so I know that I'm not called for that. So I'm not a preacher, I'm just a guy that has lived a life and has came from the bottom because of the love of Christ. And so I thank you guys for coming, taking the time out of your day to come. So I'll try to be short and nice and easy for you guys. So as I was preparing for this word, it's probably been like 2 months since Pastor Baker asked me to come. But before that, I was trying out for a special ops gig for contract work to go overseas. And I just really felt that that's what God wanted me to do, because it's kind of like that action. I felt like I got healed from all the stuff I struggled with from the past. So I was like, all right, perfect, God. Like, this opportunity came. It's a lot of money. I mean, like $200,000 a year. So I had like, God, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to build churches. I'm going to build some ministries. So I know there's no way I can fail this thing. So I show up, and I got caught like the last week. And I remember sitting there, and I asked, like, God, what is next for my life? And I felt like I was doing the things that God wanted me to do, but everything that I felt He was turning me to kept going away from what I felt. So I was sitting at the tables eating lunch by myself, and that's when I got the message that Pastor Baker wanted me to speak. And I knew at that moment that God was calling me to stay here and do more things here. So, and in honor of Veterans Day, I chose a person that's in the Bible that many of you guys do know, and if you don't know, it's David. David was this warrior guy. So if you can think about anybody in your life, that's that main entre dude, the dude that every dude wants to be, and every girl that a dude that you don't want your girlfriends around, because that dude's that awesome. So that's who David is. He's this macho man. Obviously, he killed Goliath, but with that, he also struggled with a lot of things. He had a lot of sin in his life. He had a lot of lust, and he was a liar in his life as well. So, but just put that persona, think about the things in your life, the person in your life that is that macho man that you can think of. And just put that in mind. Keep that in your mind right now. Like, you think no matter what happens to this dude, he's going to come he's going to come over and he's going to take charge of whatever prop we need, because this dude's the man. So that's David. So the title of the message is Unmask It. And I know you guys look at me like that doesn't make sense, but it'll make sense when I'm done, trust me. So unmask it. So I'm going to read it from Psalm 55. So you just take the time to get there. We'll have it on the board, I believe. She's got it. Yeah, Psalm 55:1. So when you got it, just take the time to get it, and then I'll start reading from there. All right, everybody good? That's like 2, but I'm good. I guess that's everybody. So, Psalm 55, okay? So it reads out, remember this is David, this warrior, remember. He says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not yourself from my plea for mercy." So now when I was reading this, I was like, man, like you told me to take David, this warrior, but now I'm reading this, and he says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not yourself from the plea of my mercy." But to understand how David's actually feeling, is you have to understand what mercy actually means. So I'm going to dissect these texts. It's really teaching for you. So I'm going to ask you questions instead of giving you points. I'm going to ask you questions. So mercy, what is really mercy? So think about when you're a kid. I grew up with a lot of brothers and sisters, and I was a very small kid. I think that's why I worked out every day of my life since then, so I can stop getting picked on. So I was a very small kid, and so what happens when your brother puts you in a chokehold or something like that, right? They don't let go until when? You usually say mercy, right? Because at that point, they know you got nowhere else to go. There's no move I can do to get out of there, so I'm just stuck. That's what David has felt right now. He's got nowhere else to go, and he's crying to God, "Plead to my mercy." So give in to my mercy, my prayer. So we don't know what he's going through, and it's kind of funny because as I'm reading this, I'm trying to figure out what he's going through in his life, but I feel like there's a reason why he didn't explain what exactly he's going through. But he's going to give us some blueprints of what exactly he felt during this time he's praying to God. So he's praying to God, give heed to my mercy, plead to me. And in verse 2, he states, because of the noise, it says, attend to me and answer me, I am restless, in the complaint and I moan. So now he's saying, tend to me because I'm restless. So how many of you guys have been restless in your life, or still am restless right now? I'm pretty sure a lot of you, a handful. Even if you didn't raise your hand, I know, I can see, because some of y'all nodded, I'm just kidding. But restless. And that was me too in my life. As you know, I was a Marine and did deployments in Iraq for 13 months. So if you cut it in half, it's pretty much 2, because Marines only do 6 months. So a lot of the stuff I was going through, I would have those dreams at night of pretty much what I experienced overseas. So coming back home, obviously, you get kind of used to everything. It's kind of like, for me, I thought it was boot camp, because when you're in boot camp, I mean, I can tell you the stories of people sleeping, and you're staying up fire watching. People are yelling, you literally screaming ISO in their sleep, and turning in their beds because they've lived their life for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's like that kind of brainwash, I guess you could say. So that's what I was feeling when I was overseas. When I came back home, the same thing. But I think it was going to fade away, just because maybe it's just the season. I'm just getting back, but it never did, and it still doesn't to this day. So there's nights I do get them. So there's restless. So now we're thinking, okay, now David is restless because of the complaint and the moan. So we don't know what he's exactly experienced, but we do know he was a warrior, right? And the things he's done in his life. So maybe that's what's causing him to be restless. The things that he's done in his life, it's causing him to not be able to sleep. So now, because of the noise of the enemy, verse 3, it said, because of the noise of the enemy, the oppression of the wicked. So now we're talking about the noise. So now I started reading it. Now I understand kind of what he's going through. Now he's kind of going through the spiritual warfare. Because if we read later on the chapter, which I can't sake of time, but I'll make sure you get the points going on. But what David is this warrior. He even says later in the verse, he's like, if it was a person that was in front of me, I'd be able to handle it. I can take the enemy out if he was standing in front of me, because that's what I do. That's exactly what God called me to be, this warrior. I was a shepherd boy, this little midget guy, and then God called me to be a warrior, and that's what I am. So if it was something physically, I could do it. He said, but the noise of the enemy is killing me right now. It's causing oppression. So oppression, what does oppression mean? It's the unjust treatment. So you see everybody on the news talking about the oppression they're in, the unjust treatment, the lack of control. But David, that's what he's feeling like. The enemy is doing that to him right now. And the enemy was doing that to me. And many of you too. He's speaking those things in your voice, in your mind. It's causing you to feel like, man, what's going on? Why can't I get past this uncontrol? I feel unjust. I'm this Christian person. I'm living for God. As we said, as we spoke, he's a man after God's own heart. He loved God. But for some reason, the wicked were coming after him and pressed. And why do you think so? Because God was doing great things in his life. God was moving in his life. So the enemy wanted to stop him from doing that. And the only way he can is to get your thought process out of whack with the things that you've done in your life. But we serve a great God, so it's starting off pretty bad. I get it, but there's a reason. So in verse 3, continuing, it says, "For they drop trouble upon me, in anger they bear and grudge against me." So drop trouble. So drop trouble is pretty much casting things down on somebody. So that's what the enemy's doing now. He's just dropping trouble in your life. And I'm pretty sure every one of you experienced that, where you live in life, your life is good, and then all of a sudden, trouble just comes out of nowhere. The wicked comes and it's angry. And I looked at the word angry because when the trouble comes and the voices come, it's not this soft thing like, oh my gosh, like Justin, man, like, dude, it's sad that this happened to you, man. Like, you know, I know finances is not good, and you know, somebody got hurt at the job. I know it's not. No, it's he's angry about it. So, and still, he's making my emotions go out of whack. So he's controlling those things, right? So it gets so bad that David even states in 4, "My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen upon me, and fear and trembling upon me, and horror overwhelms me." So it's getting that bad now. It's getting to that point. He's trying to explain to God how bad his life is right now, the horror and anguish. And what does anguish mean? The definition of anguish is it's kind of the severe and mental, physical suffering. So also we know it said his heart is in anguish. So it's not really anything physical or mental. So if anguish means severe pain, suffering, his heart is completely suffering. And this is a warrior. Remember, this is this guy that's bad. He's a bad dude. And he's suffering. So if David can suffer, then we should be able to understand that we can suffer too. And we don't got to be so strong. And that was my mentality. Is I was this Marine. I did tours in Iraq. I did my job. I did it successfully. I saved lives. Unfortunately, some not. But at the same time, like, I was this Marine. But why am I feeling this way? And this Christian's the same way. Like, I'm doing great things for God. I'm so strong spiritually. I'm preaching at churches. I'm giving back to the community. You know, but at the same time, you're suffering and you're trying to hide that feeling. And that's what the enemy wants you to do. He wants to drown you with those things and put it aside. Until when you do that too often, what happens? And David even kind of expressed it here in verse 6. He says, "I say, oh, that I had wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest." So to me, that resonated with me because I've been there. I've been where I'm felt like, man, like God, like I'm trying so hard, but I can't do it anymore. If I could just fly away and be at rest with you, I'd be happy. My life would be a lot easier and a lot better if I just wasn't here anymore because I'm just so tired of dealing with the pain. So I'm going to be exactly like Pastor. I'm going to be real with you and be transparent. You can judge me all you want, that's fine. Like I said, I don't plan to be no preacher, so it's good. I prayed to God before I got here. He said, "God, it's all you, so if you got a problem with the way I'm preaching, then it's up to him." And I know Pastor Baker put me aside and said, "Hey man, you're kind of off over there." So I'm just saying this. So that's exactly how I felt. The wings, I wanted to fly away like a dove. So pretty much I just wanted to be with God. But God wouldn't allow me to. Because on other appointments, I didn't even want to come home a lot of times because I had so much stuff going on. And you'll learn more about my story later as I go on. So with that, I'm going to need 6 guys. One really big dude, and I'm already staring at him right there. That's you. Don't be turning around. There's a female behind you. It's you. So I want 6 guys. Yeah, man, you're one. Boom, you. I'll come handpick you. I don't care. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Ledbetter, 5, and 6. Boom. So what I'm explaining to you is pretty much how the enemy disguises himself and makes you believe something. Now I got one too many. Okay. It's God for you right there. That's true. Look at that. So it was funny. I was walking through Walmart and I was like, I got what I was going to speak about and all that. And then I came across these Halloween masks and they were like $2. So God's like, just use those. I said, but it's a church, man. He said, you look on Facebook. How many people go trick or treat and they go to church? So I said, fine. They won't take offense to this. So I got some masks. It's going to help us understand exactly what's going on. So this is when all these things I'm using is my life. So just so you understand. So and you can put this in whatever your life's going through. But I wanted to give you a blueprint. Since David doesn't show what it is, I want to show you my life. Because I came here before, and you guys got prayed for me. It was awesome. But now you get to know who I am a little bit. All right. So this one's going to be guilt. So you can put the mask of guilt on right here. And I'll explain all of them. So guilt for me was my deployments. I lost buddies, and I thought I could do more. I thought I could have done more, and I could have done to save lives, but I couldn't. And I felt that guilt all the time. So this is rage. So yeah, you get the rage, man. Put that on. Look at that. Boom. So I smacked your head. Now you're going to punch me in the face. Rage. So, you got the dreadlocks, so this is perfect. So, you don't even need a math, actually. No, he's married to my sister, so I can say what I want. So that's anxiety. The anxiety of life. I don't know if that's a smile, but it looked like anxiety to me. I thought it was like this. So I used that one. That's going to be anxiety. This is one that really affected me a lot too, as well, between the guilt and this, is my childhood. So which one should be childhood? I think it'd be this one. Can you put that over your GQ hair? I don't want to mess it up, but it's nice. I say that because I'm jealous. So that's childhood, the stuff that I've been through in my childhood that was affecting me. So this one is going to be extra burdens. Just extra burdens in my life. Yeah, it's going to be hot, so I'm sorry. I'll treat you guys to lunch later. And then this one is the big S word, suicide. Now, all those things in my life. So now you see all these masks that was upon me. So as I call you, just follow my direction, okay? So now I'm this Christian man. I'm like, remember David, right? He's working, he's this warrior, right? And all of a sudden he comes home to all that junk. The restless nights. All those things. He's doing work. And who knows, maybe on the battlefield he was feeling these things. But he just expresses it in song. So me, this is my life. I'm walking, I'm doing life, I turn on the news, and boom. Here comes, a Marine died through ISIS. So what do you think triggers in my mind? Even the video there, it automatically goes there. I see the guys in the coffin, my guilt gets in. It trickles in, that's how the enemy wants to speak. So guilt comes and walking in my life, right? So I'm walking, doing life, and all he's doing, he's whispering in my ear. You could have done something about it. Why weren't you there? Those guys were married, they had kids on the way, and you didn't do enough to save their life. And now you start whispering, now I feel that pressure of guilt now. Now I'm holding on to guilt. And as I go on the day, I get kind of angry. Everything triggers me to get angry now. It gets upset, because now I'm reliving the moments of seeing a buddy not make it. So now that rage gets on me. Now I'm angry. Somebody cuts me off. I want to do some damage to him. So now I was like, okay, now I'm walking. Now he's walking with me. Now I got rage walking with me and guilt. Constantly whispering in my life. So now anxiety comes in. So now I'm around rough crowds. I'm around people that are bothering me. Now anxiety creeps in on my life. And now it's all in my mind now. I'm trying to pocket it out and put it away. But now anxiety's creeping in. Right? So now that all that's in, guess what else happens? As I'm trying to escape them, they still keep following me. No matter where I go, they come. So now my childhood memories comes. I go on a call, and this kid has been molested or something. That brings back to my childhood. That's who my dad was. So now I'm looking. I'm like, now my childhood comes back, and I get in relationships. I can't be in a relationship. I can't be around my niece and nephew because I feel bad. I feel uncomfortable because it brings it back to the stage where my dad did to me. Now I'm feeling I don't ever want to be married. I don't want kids. So that's the whispers happening in my head. I got all this stuff going on, and then the extra burdens you come home to, the financial stuff, the stuff you may be sick, maybe this great man of God, but your kids are not living the right way. And you're like, God, I'm praying, but my kid's not doing this. He's not doing what I'm thinking doing. Or I got a disease. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just lost my father. And my mom just lost her granddad. I lost 2 grandparents in a matter of 2 weeks. So the extra burdens that you carry in your life. So it got so bad for me as the big S word came in my life. So now I got all these whispers. I'm laying in bed and I can't think. I'm like, man, God, like, what's going on? It'd be so better. So suicide's going through my mind. I've been there where I've had the pistol in my hand. And my family doesn't know this, so this is the perfect time to let them know. Like, I had the gun in my hand ready to take my life because I couldn't take it anymore. Like David, I wanted to fly away like a dove because I could not stand the voices every single day in my life coming after me. So you guys can go back now. You guys are scared now. So stand there, and then so that's exactly what was happening in my life. And it's happening in your life too. It's that constant noise that is loud and angry in your voice. And what do you want to do? You want to pocket it and throw it away to the side. And for me, it took me so long to understand until I went to a call, and I avoided these calls at all costs, where kids were molested because I didn't want to relive those moments. And I remember nobody was on duty except for me to take this call. And I showed up, and I walk in this room, and this little girl about 9 years old, she's sitting there talking to me in the DSS, and she's kind of like trying to avoid the questions I'm asking. So the DSS agent finally talks to her and says, Child Protective Service, sorry. Finally talks to her and says, like, just what happened. Just give us what detail what happened. And she said, well, my dad made me do some things that he showed me on video. And so when I first saw that, and then she said that one thing she said, I'm not going to go into detail, and I completely cried in front of her. But before she said anything, she was like, dude, you're like the biggest cop ever. I would never want to mess with you. You're that strong dude. You're this bad dude. Like, I don't know why somebody would mess with you. I'm like, yeah, I wish that was the case. This is all for show. I can't do nothing. So that's exactly what she said before. And then when she made her statements about what happened to her, I cried and I walked out of the room because of it was so much. That noise was constantly in. I couldn't take it. I walked out. I got myself together. I said, God, just help me get through this. So I walked back in there, and I apologized to her. I just said, I just want you to know I'm sorry that I cried in front of you, but we share a story. And she said, no, don't apologize. She said, because of the fact that you cried lets me understand that it doesn't matter how big you are or how strong you are. I don't have to be tough for my little sister. Like, God, it happened. And now I'm ready to give it up. If you're so strong and you're so big and it kills you to this day, then I can give in. So, with that being said, we get to the best part. Because guess what? All this can happen, right? You see how that God kind of used me in that scenario to help this child overcome something, right? So this is what God says in verse 22. He's saying right now, is cast your burdens on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. Cast your burdens, and He will sustain you, and He'll never let the righteous be moved. So that's the main concept. There's a couple words in there. There's a couple words in there you got to understand. So cast the burdens onto Him is key, right? Cast the burdens. So all the burdens I've had, all these stuff, I have to give to God. Right? I have to give them to God because right now the enemy has them. Those are his weapons at this point. Because I've never gave this to God, right? So they're hanging around me all day, every day, and the enemy just throws them in when he wants to. And that's exactly what he's doing here. So in order for me to get rid of those, I need to cast those burdens on to God. And that's what He wants. Give me those, and I'll sustain you, and He'll never permit the righteous to be moved. But the key word is righteous to be moved. So if I cast my burdens on to God, but at the same time I'm dealing with, I have guilt from watching pornography, or I have guilt from, the things I've struggled with, and I'm still doing those things. Like, hey, God, you can have my guilt from being unpure, but I go back home and I sit here and watch pornography. What's happening? I'm not righteous, so I will be moved. But that's what God's saying. God's